What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Leader Supporting Leader podcast, where we are here to help you learn how to effectively lead and serve authentically. So today, my guest is Pastor Willie Taylor, my big brother. I love him so much ever since we've been connected, and we have had such a connection. We have had such a great time together. I think of him so much of a big brother that I don't know if he realizes, but I do know that we have this birthday competition going on, and I haven't forgotten about that. I actually looked at my calendar the other day and said, let me see, I got a little bit. Well, we had this little birthday competition going on, but it's all love, it's all encouraging. He is an awesome man of God. He is a son, naturally and spiritually. He is a great friend. He works in the corporate world. He has his own ministry, his own show, the self-checkout show that airs on Facebook. Just help me welcome this man of God, Pastor Willie Taylor. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. Tell us, more about you. What did I miss? I know you got an extensive bio. Let the people know.
Oh, no. The bio is real short, but I do appreciate you for having me on this awesome podcast today. It's always a pleasure when I get to sit down and talk with you. Man, I'm just a regular old guy that's just doing what he does.
Oh, he's so humble. Yeah, don't regular old guy and anointed. He's trying to be humble. I hear you, brother. I'll boast for you. But,
I am, of course, in corporate. I've been in ministry for 26 years. No, 27. Oh boy, 27 years.
Years adding up on you.
Yeah, I had to think about it. And of those 27 years, I was just released 3 years ago to actually go forth into my own ministry. I'll tell you about that later.
Wow. So that's awesome. I want people to not miss that. Let's not slide about that. I know we're going to think about it or talk about it a little bit later, but you've been in ministry for how many? 27 years?
27 years.
And then just 3 years ago, you was released to start the ministry.
Yes.
Ministries. Wow. That's a lot to unpack just in that statement. So did it start with the self-checkout or did it start somewhere else? So tell us about this self-checkout show.
The self-checkout show is a baby that was birthed through my apostles, actually, Drs. Curtis and Linda Stennis. It was spoken prophetically over my life that my ministry would help to enhance and change lives. And after that, I began to pray and seek and about the direction that I wanted my ministry to go in. And I remembered that word that that was prophesied to me. And I was talking to someone and we were talking about the grocery store and about the self-checkout lane. And it was at that moment that it hit me. I said, self-checkout. And I thought about that and I likened it unto my own life because I believe in doing what they call self-inventory. I'm always looking within before I look without in any kind of relationship. So I coupled all that together and I said, that's it. I said, thank you, Holy Spirit. We are going to call this the self-checkout show. And it's the show where we take an honest look at what's in our hearts, our minds, and our spirits. The show, we talk about a lot of common things, but we also talk about a lot of uncommon things that ordinarily Christians typically shy away from.
Okay.
But we get into the bottom of it. Some of those taboo topics we talk about that the church doesn't want to talk about, we talk about it because it's happening. And people need healing, they need deliverance, they need chains to be broken. And you cannot do that effectively unless you confront those situations. So that's what the Self-Checkout Show is. It's a show where you get to take a look at you and not anybody else.
Wow. You get the chance to take a look at you. And sometimes that's a hard look. That's a hard thing to take in, is what's wrong with me. And you are purposed and assigned to help people do that. So what are some of the topics that you all talk about on the Self-Checkout Show?
We talk about relationships, all kinds of relationships. We talk about grief. We talk about all things ministry. We talk about addiction. Actually, the show that I'm airing tonight is it's a rebroadcast because I'm not going live, but it's a rebroadcast of a young lady who just so happens to be my cousin, who was bound by drugs, by heroin for a number of years, and God delivered her. So, and she's been clean for over 10 years now. So we get into the heart of things that matter, urban topics. We talk about everything, man. Everything is not a church related topic, but because I am who I am, I have to relate it to the church, to the Bible, to God, because that's an avenue of ministry. I don't care if I'm talking about the BET Awards. I'm going to find an avenue to mention Christ in everything that we do. So yeah, we have a wide variety of topics that we cover on my show.
So where did that passion come from? I know you said that it was prophesied, but the prophecy, for those that don't know, should be a confirmation as well. So it had to be something that was stirring in you. I don't know, maybe in the beginning of your ministry time, or even just pre-saved, but it had to be something. So tell the people how did that confirmation? Yes, the prophecy was the confirmation, but how did you know what it was confirming, that it was an accurate confirmation? What passions, what was those signals? What did that look like?
Well, the scripture lets us know that the Holy Spirit would bring all things back to our remembrance. And I knew from a long time ago that I would be used of God to reach people. I knew that for a fact. This is something that God himself, Holy Spirit, shared with me when I was young. And of course, I went into ministry at 20 years old. I started preaching and teaching the gospel at 20. And I like I said before, 24 years later, it finally happens, it comes to pass. And when I did receive the prophecy, I was reminded of what God told me when I was 20 years old, that he was going to do great things with my ministry, with me and with my ministry. So it was just a really, really long process. And in that, I had to really, really focus on myself and all of the things that were wrong in me, which is another reason that I believe it took 24 years. Because had I went prior, I probably would have messed up a lot of stuff and messed up a lot of people. But I trusted God, I followed the process, and I waited for the green light.
Wow, that's amazing, because there's so many people that may have that itching feeling, like, I know God called me to do something. And especially in the day that we are living now, everything is so, right now, we can we doing this podcast right now via Zoom. You don't have to be in the same room anymore. And then there's social media. You can just pop up and go live and start a ministry and just
That's true.
be free.
It's true.
To do what you want to do. But you said you trusted the process because there are some things that you had to deal with within you before you was able to effectively launch into ministry.
Well, let me say this. I liken myself sometimes unto David, because David was anointed king as a kid, but he didn't step into his kingship until years later. I was in my 20s and early 30s. I've turned down 3 offers to become a senior pastor of a church.
Wow.
Because that was not that's not the vision I had. That's not what God told me. I never wanted to do that either. Let's just be honest. I don't want to lead people in that realm. I turned it down. I'm like, no, thank you. But that's not who I am. I know the voice of God, and I knew that was not what he was calling me to do.
So let's unpack that a little bit. You was offered senior pastor positions 3 times, and
3 times.
And for some, and they feel like they call the ministry, and people make the easy connection to ministry to being a pastor. It's so much more to ministry.
Absolutely.
But they make that easy connection. So for those that are have the zeal in their heart to want to do what God's called them to do, how did you stay? You said that you know God's voice, but how did you stay rooted to say, I need to pass on what a lot of people would consider prestigious opportunity of advancement? Like, help the people. What are some key things that kept you rooted to say, I'm gonna wait for the correct time. I'm gonna wait for the correct or the proper releasing for me to go forward?
Well, because I knew for a fact that my calling was to serve leaders. That's where I thrive. I thrive by serving. I never wanted to be the lead man. I'm okay with coming off the bench. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely, Doctor. I hear you.
I'm okay with coming off the bench. So number one, it never was a desire of mine. And for those who actually do have that desire, they desire a good thing. It's just that you have to be willing to, number one, you got to be willing to wait. And you have to be willing to serve before that even comes to pass, before you even go into trying to even get into leadership or pastorship or whatever. You got to know how to serve. You not just serve, but know how to serve.
Right.
Those are important steps. But I trusted the process. I knew what God said, and I knew what he didn't say. And it's okay for people to admire you and respect the anointing on your life. And if you're not careful, you can get built, get the big head with that stuff. Yeah. And that pride will push you into doing something that God didn't ordain you to do. And so I allowed myself not to be moved by what people were saying. And more importantly, every opportunity that came, I spoke to my pastor, my senior leader, and said, hey, this happened. This is what I was offered, X, Y, and Z. And if my pastor said, and this is where we have a big problem, Ewing, but this is just how I feel. If my pastor says no, it's no. I trusted my leader.
Right.
And if they said, even if it was something I really wanted to do, If my leader says no, then no is what it is.
Now, help the people, was you always able to accept that no from your leaders?
Absolutely not.
Okay, talk to us about that. Let's unpack that, because some people have a hard problem understanding of, okay, I know God's called me to do this, but my leaders tell me it's not the time. It's no right now. How do I, God's telling me this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm ready to do it. I want to do it. The leader says no. So how to help the people? How does, and I want to say this as correct as possible. How does the leaders know outrank what God has told you to do?
Because God placed that leader over you. It was God who did that. God gave us leaders,
right.
And those leaders, they commune with God, they fellowship with God, they watch over our souls. Even if it's something that God told you himself to do, you have to trust the timing of God. And your leader, I believe this, your leaders can see further than you can. They can see further than me. And so even though I know what God said, I trust the leader that God gave me.
Wow.
Even as like Moses and the children of Israel, they didn't move unless Moses moved. And I think that's where my heart is. I don't move, I don't go unless my leader says go. Sometimes, initially, back in the day when I thought I was something, and I wanted to do something and I received a no, I'm like, what? Seriously? You got to be kidding me. I want to do whatever it is.
Right.
And a lot of times, Ewing, I went home mad. Ooh. I went home upset. Why can't I do this? I see such and such doing this, such and such doing that. And it was through prayer and through self-checkout.
That is.
That I had to sit myself down, be humble, and do whatever my leader said. And God knows now, looking back, that was the best decision I ever made, was accepting the no. Got to be humble.
Accepting the no. So you said that it was times you definitely disagreed with the no.
Yeah, sure.
And made you angry and upset.
Yep.
Frustrated even.
Yep.
But you continue to serve?
Absolutely.
How?
Well, I'm clear. I've always been clear on who I am and what I was called to do. And when you have a passion for serving, it's hard to stop. It's like almost like an addiction, so to speak. When you have addicted people, it's hard for them to stop drinking or smoking or whatever it is they're doing. When you have a heart for God, when you have a heart for serving, I don't care if you do get upset, it's hard to quit your calling. I have an issue with people who just walk away from their calling because they're upset, they're frustrated. That's going to continue to happen in ministry. You are going to be frustrated. You are going to be upset. You are going to be inconvenienced. So you're going to quit every time that happens? No. If you keep quitting, I question your calling. I question the call of everybody that, every little slight thing that happens, you're ready to throw in the towel. I question, I really, really call your calling into question right there, because the old saying is, God never told us, the road would be easy, and it's not. It's not. So you're gonna get hit with a lot of frustration. You're gonna get hit with no's from your senior leader for whatever reason. But you have to learn to trust the God in your leader, even if that means no. I was upset, I was frustrated, but I prayed and I said, God, show me me. And then it was like, okay, yeah, bro, calm down. It ain't your time yet. Just like Jesus at his first miracle, he said, "Mine hour has not yet come." It wasn't time. So oftentimes, Ewing, we want to rush into something because we called, we anointed. Yeah, you are called, you are anointed, but is it for right now? It may be for 24 years later.
Wow. And the question is can you wait that time?
Can you wait?
Can you
and
wait?
more importantly, what are you doing while you're waiting?
Talk about it. So what should the people be doing? What does that preparation look like?
That preparation,
I know you talk about, dealing within yourself. What are some things that you have to deal, or you had to deal within yourself to ensure that you did not damage the people that you were called to reach? Like what does that preparation look like?
It looks like a lot of prayer. It looks like a lot of prayer. It looks like a lot of being stripped before God. It looks like a lot of purging. I don't mean that literally. Well, sometimes literally, but it takes a lot. It takes a whole lot to prepare yourself for ministry. It's not just grabbing a whole bunch of books and Bibles and pens and paper and writing down good sermons. It's not even about that. It takes a lot of preparation, and it takes a lot of us getting rid of us. Wow. Because God cannot effectively use us if we full of ourselves. And that's why we got Facebook prophets, and that's why we got people buying bishop certificates and all that kind of stuff, because we full of ourselves and we don't want to wait. We don't want to trust the process. We just want to go and be great. And that's fine. You can be great, but do it the way God said do it. And that way is by waiting on him to say go. Even though you're anointed, David, as a king, as a child, you have to wait until God anoints you for the kingship and said, now it's time for you to step into that role.
Wow, that's awesome. So let's fast forward a little bit and help the people in this manner. So again, we touched on the Facebook and how easy it is just to click a button and go live to the globe, basically.
Yeah.
So when it comes to launching your ministry, how did you go about being encouraging yourself? Because we and those who have this ministry that are, in our mind that we feel is we're called to do, we feel like, oh, soon as I hit the button or soon as I get the green light, it's going to be grand. It's going to be magnificent. It's going to be a hit. And sometimes that struggle is discourage a person because it don't always happen like that. For some people, it do, God bless them. But some people, you go in, it's like you get addicted to what's my numbers? How many views did I get? So how do you stay focused in purpose and not on numbers?
For me, how I stay focused on purpose and not numbers is that if somebody says to me, Pastor Will, I needed that, or bro, you helped me, or I needed to hear something like that, keeps me grounded. That right there. I don't have to have, because of course my show is viewed on wherever, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, on those platforms. I don't have 1,000 viewers. Mm-hmm. Very rarely have I reached 1,000 views. Sometimes I've gotten 40 viewers. But that never disturbed nor moved me whenever someone says, you helped me. Wow. It's not about numbers. It's about reaching the people right where they are.
Well, so you said that what I got from that statement is people have to redefine or define what they view as success.
Yeah.
And so success, when I'm hearing from you, success look to you looks like how or the manner that you add value to people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So to the viewers out there, wherever you're listening or watching this content, know or redefine what do you view success. What is the value that you are adding to people's lives? It may not equate to numbers, but you have a purpose and you have a ability to add value, and let that be your measuring stick for success, not get caught up in numbers and things of that nature. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. Success looks different for every person.
Okay.
Whereas a corporation, success for them is, I work for, I probably can't say the name, I don't know. I work for probably the largest bank chain in the world.
Okay.
And we get quarterly reports from the big bosses, the CEO. Mm-hmm. And it talks about how many billions of dollars we've netted in 90 days. I get that
billions of dollars in 90 days.
Billions of dollars.
Good God.
And we get that we get that report 4 times a year. That is success to that CEO, because we're never in the red. Whereas a pastor, success may look like 1,000 members. Mm-hmm. And somebody like me, success looks like I just touched that brother's heart. Wow. So it looks different for everybody. And it's okay, again, to want to be big and successful, but in success, especially in relation to Christendom, we must look at our motives for wanting to be successful. And what does that look like? What does success look like for you? What does it look like for you? It's different for every person, but if your heart is pure, and you go when God says go, then you will be successful. And success, listen, success, what it means is a good journey. That's what success is. Whatever it is you're doing, if you have a good journey, you're successful.
Wow, that's great. That's great. I want to touch on for a moment, because even though you have Willie Taylor Ministries, the self-checkout show, you preach, you mentor, you still actively serve in your local ministry. You're still tightly connected with your leaders. How do you balance that? How do you balance the ambitions that you have of wanting to touch people's lives with Willie Taylor Ministries and still support your senior leaders, your pastors? How do you juggle, or how do you balance the two?
Well, it's not really difficult for me. I'm in constant contact with my senior leaders. They reach out to me and say, hey, we need you to do X, Y, and Z. And I say, I'm on it. Going to church faithfully. I'm unfortunate I'm not going right now because my schedule changed. I'm praying that God release me from working on Sundays. But even in that, I've been working on Sundays for the past few weeks, and still I'm in contact with my leaders. What do you need? What can I do? Or they'll text me or call me and say, hey, I need you to do this. So I always find myself in a position, and I always want to, I pray that that never changes, that I find myself in a position to be able to help or serve my senior leaders. I believe that's one reason that God is keeping me and blessing me the way that he is. I have a heart for leadership. I have a heart to serve leadership. Your book, that's me. I have the heart of a servant. I don't want to be great, but if I can help you be great, let me do that. Let me push you as hard as I can, push my passions as much as I can. They're author of 10 books. I buy every book and I sow books into people. I share their stuff on social media. I want to push my leaders to be as great as they can. I want to be the one to hold their arms up, you know? I want to be that person. And that's always been me. I will serve. I just believe that that's where as the people say, that's where my blessings come from, through making sure my leaders are okay.
So let's deal with this. And our time is this is such a great conversation. But our time is winding down. But I want to make sure we touch a couple of more points. I want to on the subject of still being connected to your leaders, and we talked earlier about accepting the no from our leaders to endure the process. One thing that's key to that is making sure you're attached to the right leader.
Yeah.
Because truth be told, it is what it is. We do have insecure leaders.
Sure.
That will hold back people from going forth, even though it is their time. And then we preach or we teach, submit to your leader, but that leader is holding them back. So how do you ensure, or how do you know that you're connected to the right leader? And if you're not, how do you address that issue?
That's a very good question. I think that it is vitally important that we do connect to the right leaders. And in that, see, it's different. When I was a kid, I had to go where my parents said go. You know what I'm saying? Mm. Then when I got older and was able to make my own decisions, and at that point I was rooted and grounded in the church, being a musician and a minister of music and all of that stuff, I wasn't really too concerned about leadership at that time. You know, I was just trying to make some money and play and teach. I mean, just to be honest with you. But once I was called to ministry, my prayer life increased, and I was devoting myself to prayer. And Bishop Jeff Davis had always told me, he knew he was going to start a church, and he had always told me, he said, when I start my church, I want you to come and I want you to pray for me. I said, okay. And I did. The day I remember him calling me saying, it's happening. We're going forward, blah, blah, blah. So I went, and he was my friend. Mm-hmm. He was my friend for a number of years prior to him becoming a pastor. And so I went to that church and I joined, and he became my leader and not my friend. I was able to distinguish the two, and we still have a relationship to this day. I'm no longer with that ministry, but we talk often. But I knew he was the right leader because of how my life and my spirituality would begin to flourish, because he taught us as young ministers things like pulpit etiquette and being on time, and just things like that. When you have a leader that's willing to pour like that into you, that is a leader that you want to keep around you, because they're giving you stuff to mature you. Right. So you want to keep that leader around. However, when a child grows up in their parents' house, they grow up and they get out.
Mm-hmm.
They move on to their own place or on to whatever. So for spiritually, what that means is if it's time for you to go, you have to really, really pray about it. Number one, to make sure that it's time for you to go.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, whoever that leader is over you, you need to sit down and talk to them and say, this is what I'm feeling.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that there are some leaders that will hold you back. Now, you got to be careful with this, because if you are a gift to that ministry, some leaders will say, no, I don't feel that. I don't think it's time for you to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it gets a little tricky.
Okay.
Because again, if you are a gift to that ministry, they don't want you to go.
Mm.
But if you know that you are no longer flourishing, you're no longer growing, you're stagnant, it might be time for you to just say, you know what? I prayed about it, X, Y, and Z. This is not for me anymore. But don't do it disrespectfully.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Don't do it disrespectfully, and don't ever, ever leave without notice.
Wow.
And then ask God to lead you to who you should be under, which is what I did. I had a talk with Bishop Jeff when it was time for me to transition. Thankfully, God showed him before I even talked to him. I didn't even have to say it to him. He actually said it to me.
Wow.
On that phone call. And he prayed for me. And I ended up where I am now. I've been with them for 9 years now and serving them. It was here where I am now, that my 24th year in ministry was with Drs. Kurt and Linda Stennis, and they unlocked the Willie Taylor ministries. They unlocked that in me and said, go forth. And that's when I went. Wow. So it's important to have the right leadership and know how to transition if you need another leader.
So I want to be clear out there in podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're viewing this content. We are not saying just because you don't get your way that your leader is holding you back. And
absolutely not.
This is a pass to leave. We are just letting you know that here are some situations, and in the correct situation or opportunity, or I don't want to call it opportunity, in the correct situation, it's okay to leave, but it must be done in order.
Absolutely.
It must be done with a great amount of prayer. It must be done openness and in communication. So don't take the words of leaders supporting leader podcasts and Ewing and Pastor Willie Taylor and say, hey, they told me to leave my church. So
No, don't do that.
Y'all ain't getting us in trouble with that one. We're just having some real conversation, because we know there are people out there that feel this way, and we just want to help you out and give you some guidance, okay?
Yeah, because if you leave the wrong way, you rebellious, and now you're gonna try to lead other people, and you're gonna only make them rebellious people that'll rebel towards you, because that's what's in you. So you gonna mess up either way.
Yeah. So our time is gone. Our time for this episode has been well spent. We might have to have you back, Pastor. I really enjoyed.
I talk too much. I'm sorry. I talk too much.
This is fine. This is wonderful. So just even now, I know I consider you a big brother. I've learned a lot about you, even in this conversation. I even see more of a connection.
Yes, sir.
With that I have with you, and I'm excited to have unpacked that and for that to flourish and grow as well. Yes. So conclude us, give us some ending points, or if you just feel like something you want to minister to the people that are listening, conclude, and also with that, in your conclusion, give us just some things that are in store for Willie Taylor Ministries in 2022, just in general. and give us everything, your social media handles, website, whatever, how the people can get in contact with Willie Taylor Ministries. And then we will end there. So I open the floor to you, Pastor. Whatever you have, hit us with it. We're ready to receive.
Well, thank you again for having me on. It's really a pleasure. I would love to come back one day and chat some more with you. You all can reach me on any social media platform at WT Ministries and the number 3, WT Ministries 3. That is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can use that handle. 2022, we've got some great things coming up with the ministry. We are going to expand our show, the self-checkout show. We are looking forward to traveling the country with the show. So I'm I'm excited about that. Yes, I'm excited about that. And we are looking, we gotta watch this pandemic though, because we're actually looking into doing the show with a live audience. So we are praying about that, and we are just watching this pandemic. We believe God, but we also believe in using the wisdom of man in that. So we'll be hearing more about that. I would like to take a moment to encourage each and every one of you that are viewing this, that are in ministry. I do want to say to you that where you are right now is no mistake. I want to say that it's not a coincidence. Whether it be good, whether it be bad, God has you right where you need to be. The question is, are you going to trust him in the middle of whatever you're in? Listen, you're too far gone to turn around. And you're really, really close to where you want to be. But in the middle, it gets really hard. I know it does. It gets a little rough. But I want to encourage each and every one of you to really, really remember, think back on the promises of God. Think back on the promises that he made. Think back and remember that God has never, ever let you down before. And even in the middle of what you're dealing with, in the middle of your trauma, in the middle of your frustration, in the middle of your ministry not seeming to flourish, remember the promise of God. And God will always, his word declares that he is not slack concerning his promises. He is going to keep his word to you. You just make sure you keep your word to him. Everything's going to work out. All things work together for the good of those who love God and to those who are the called according to his purpose. And that is you. You are the called. Trust the process. Follow your leaders. Stay prayerful. Stay humble. And you will be successful. Be encouraged, everybody.
Wow, that was so encouraging. I'm blessed by that. And I know the people that are watching and viewing this content will be blessed by it as well. Again, Pastor, thank you. Thank you for joining the show. Everybody in the podcast world, YouTube world, make sure you go and follow Pastor Willie Taylor at all those social media handles he mentioned, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you register or log on and subscribe to my website, www.undikard.com. That's undikard.com. Get your books, The Heart of a True Servant, The Heart of a True Servant 21-Day Devotional, and the Leadership Journal. And make sure that you are ready and willing and equipped to serve, lead and serve effectively and authentically. So this has been this episode of the, I'm going to say The Heart of a True Servant. I'll start saying the book. This has been the latest episode of Leader Support and Leading Podcast. Make sure you get the books on this side, The Heart of a True Servant, with Pastor Willie Taylor. Thank you so much again for joining the show. And we will see you all next time. God bless.